Update on the protest. I went to the protest and it was incredible. And there were thousands of more people in the strip, apparently. Pretty big turnout for Las Vegas, I think. And it's estimated that around the United States, it was like 5 million people out protesting. That is beyond words. I am exhausted. It takes me a while to recover from like a busy weekend or like a busy anything. And on top of that, like I mentioned in a previous video, I do have a mood disorder that is triggered by hormonal fluctuations in the body. It could be any kind of hormone, really. So as you can tell, I don't have a lot of energy right now, but I thought to myself, I have to keep making these videos because it's eating me alive. In this video, though, I want to talk about empathy and lack of empathy and how it's connected to everything we're experiencing right now, how it's like the core issue between the right and the left, or the ups and the downs, all of that stuff. But it extends into everything, right? And I think about neurons in a brain, like branches branching out from one thing and another and another. And there's so many branches that we have to keep up with that it's very difficult to keep up with it all. There are so many things we don't know about. But I do know that there is a direct correlation between white, rich men, and I mean billionaires that are at the very, very top. They want to control everything because that is just how they operate. That is just how they're taught. And if you think about like the American dream and the rat races and all that stuff, we're all stuck in that kind of mindset too, just on a smaller scale. If I still believe in evil, I think that's the core of it. So I think it's true what they say, that people fear what they do not understand. And people with very low levels of empathy are never going to understand people with high levels of effective empathy. I'm talking about effective empathy, not cognitive empathy. There's a difference between the two, real quick. The difference is someone who has a lot of cognitive empathy knows what to say. They know all the right things to say because they know how they should act. They know what they should believe, and they will parrot out those things that you want to hear. That someone with high affective empathy that actually feels that empathy will be tricked by, essentially. Well, because of this fear, basically, lack of understanding, what you fear, you try to possess. What we fear, we try to control. Once you control something, you don't have to fear it anymore, right? Makes sense. So people with low empathy tend to constantly take. All they do is take. There's like nothing in here that fills them up, fills up their sense of self. And so they take it from others. And this isn't just like spiritual, like evil. If you want to think about it that way, that's fine. But this is in psychology as well. These people really do exist, and we really need to come to terms with that. There are people who just want to take for the sake of taking. And someone with high levels of empathy is not going to understand that. And so we're always going to be trying to bargain or make up excuses for these people. Our good nature is what gives them the open door to take everything from us. And so what do they want to take? They want to take resources, things that will help them. And essentially those things are going to be power, money, sex, but it could be as simple as attention. They want your energy, your love, your money, even your rage and your tears. Have you ever had a person like that in your life that once you start to kind of pull away or you start to act a little differently, there's like this whole blow up that happens out of nowhere that has like very little to do with anything, but they make it this huge deal. And it's like they thrive in chaos. They love to instigate. They love to push your buttons. They love to cross your boundaries. And it's like, does this person just like to argue? If that's all they can get from you, yes. I was once in a relationship where my partner would give me the silent treatment for like up to 2 weeks sometimes until I would break down crying. And he admitted to me that he would do that just to make sure I was really feeling sorry over something that I did not know whether I did or did not do. This is the kind of person that is poisoning everything else in our lives. And it's gotten so bad in society that they have crawled their way up to the top and they control everything. And there is no way to fight back unless we all stick together on the same topic. And the main problem is income inequality. Let's not even talk about communism or capitalism. Let's just talk about the actual facts. Who are the ones in power? Who holds all the power? Follow the money. Don't follow their words. Follow their actions. Don't follow what other people say they do. Look it up on paper. Do your research. It's more important now more than ever to do some research. So acknowledging that there are people, at least 10%, at least, I think it's way more, but at least 10% of people want to do harm for harm's sake, or harm to better themselves without any care for what happens to the other person in the process. I called this channel Brave Skeptic because I want us all to have just a little bit of skepticism when it comes to people we meet, people we follow, especially people we give our power to. Because it is very, very difficult to get our power back from people like this. First of all, it takes years to see the true colors of the person because we're not trained or taught to look for covert manipulation tactics. Because let me tell you, once you do see it, you can't unsee it. So if these people want our resources constantly, how do they do it? How do we not realize that we're being drained by these people? Well, there's a freaking playbook and it's been in circulation for ages. There's a script, like there's an actual script that people follow in order to manipulate other people. And it's a complete science in and of itself. But let's take a look at the basics, right? Step one is that you have to lack something. Because in order for them to get your attention, for you to give them the time of day, they need to have something you don't. Something that's easy for them to give, or at least pretend to give. And if you aren't lacking anything, then they must first convince you that you do. And if you ever read a book on sales, you know that this is the most important skill to learn. You're not selling something, you're finding solutions. Step two, wouldn't you know it, they have what you lack and they're willing to give it to you for free. In fact, they may convince you that they are the only ones who can give this one thing to you. Ever heard of the term love bombing? This is that step. Number three, in order for them to keep that up though, keep giving you that thing that you lack, because it's impossible to give you that one thing that you lack all the time, that you need all the time, the thing that makes you addicted to this person or belief from the get-go. They also need to make sure that nobody else can give this to you, or at least convince you that nobody else can give this thing to you. So isolation tactics begin. So they need to isolate you first to control the information you are exposed to. They must keep your attention on them at all costs until they are the center of your world. How do they accomplish this? Attention-seeking tactics. They charm you. There's dramatics. Checking in, making sure you're okay. Overwhelming you with attention. In the beginning, they will go out of their way to make you feel special. And they invest hard. As long as they feel like you have something for them to take, they will invest. Then there's antagonizing tactics, constantly testing you in some way. This happens a little later, but it can happen in the beginning a little bit just to see how far they have you on the hook. They'll test your boundaries all the time, and they'll test the boundaries of the people around you, or they will test your loyalty. So both the attention-seeking and the antagonizing tactics keeps you isolated and your attention on them. Like, let's say this person, while in the presence of others that the manipulator doesn't like, they'll use these tactics to piss off all the people around you so that it gives you a wide berth. And then through intermittent rewards, meaning you don't know whether you're going to get the reward or the punishment, and that's really hard to catch at first, through intermittent rewards. So that's how you take the noose from them and say, "Thank you, master," and put it on. But they say, you can take the noose off whenever you want. It's totally safe. But without you noticing, distracting you here, distracting you there, making you feel off balanced, or keeping you all to themselves, little by little, that noose just starts tightening until one day you wake up and you don't understand why you can't breathe. So back to my youth group leader example. They were very popular amongst the kids, right? They would have a line of kids outside just kind of waiting to talk to him after youth group was over. He was very gracious, charming, charismatic, kind, nice, confident, intelligent. But there was one thing that made him even more special. And that was this sense of like having a secret knowledge. That is like catnip to me, to anyone. And if you were just hungry enough to stick around and ask, that knowledge could be yours. Again, all for free. But here's the thing, once in a while, the mask would slip. And I saw this in another leader of a cult that I was kind of like in and out of. A show of force, an intense spark of rage, coloring their words and actions, making them seem resolute and some immovable general of God's spiritual army. Those moments were meant to intimidate and show strength, to show us what they were capable of to those who were not part of the flock. And it was effective. We all wanted to stay part of the flock. I know I did, desperately. It made me feel special. It made me feel like God had a very specific plan for me, and all I had to do was stick around my new mentor, and occasionally they would reward me with that secret knowledge meant only for me. And I've always found highly narcissistic people gravitating and strong. Who wouldn't want someone like that in their lives, in their corner? So what was I lacking that was sold to me back then? I was lacking a stable home, I was lacking attention, and I felt like I was lacking in love. Not just romantic, but familial love. I didn't have that many friends because I was the introvert, quiet, wallflower type. As long as I was quiet, I was left alone for the most part, and that suited me. And I was a little misanthropic. This cocktail of low self-esteem, lack of emotional safety, and emotional neglect left a 14-year-old starved for someone to fill the role of guardian, mentor, teacher, protector. And this youth group leader who led it filled in that void that was left wide open. So why? Why would someone want to fulfill those needs seemingly for free and from the bottom of their hearts? I mentioned that already, to fill their own void. That's it. They want the love and attention you would otherwise give to someone else all for themselves. And if they can't get love, they will settle for attention, good or bad. And a cult leader personality type will have like a really hard time keeping everyone feeling special all the time, right? Like he couldn't stay behind and talk to every single kid that wanted to talk to him, especially as the youth group continued to grow. And they don't actually want to give you anything. At least they don't want to give you anything that they deem necessary to them or valuable to them. Those things they are not willing to give away at all. They want those things from you. And so they'll give you these superficial, shallow, little intermittent rewards to keep you on the hook. So they start to pull back a little here and a little there, giving new people attention. The attention you start to miss and crave so much. And remember that they want your resources, not to give away their own. So they give you things that are of no value to them. And when I started feeling less special, I started bending over backwards to please, just to get some of that attention again, to show that I was worthy of it. I started volunteering to work at the youth group retreats that they would lead. So there goes more of my time and energy for free, just to stay close to my new friends and my new mentor. Retreats cost money. You need to feed the kids that come. You need volunteers to speak and perform. I even made a youth group band to perform at the retreats just to offer like that kind of entertainment. And then my leader gave me a very special role to speak at the retreats and give my own testimony and convince more kids that this is the only family they will ever need or want. So now the youth group has an endless supply of free child labor. Yay! It cost them nothing to make us feel special when all they had to do was, I feel like God is telling me that you have a very special message to say. And I think you're ready. This is part of his plan. Hell yes, master. Here I am. And you can imagine the resentment that starts to form when other favorites are suddenly discarded, or some teenage drama set it off. It becomes very toxic very quick. All under the banner of Christianity, love, and goodwill for your neighbor. I highly recommend looking into Stephen Hassan's work and Dr. Ramani. They are excellent sources to discover all the little manipulative nuances that highly narcissistic people use to manipulate others. It's a very deep field study that I find fascinating, but if you want a cheat sheet for now, look up the 48 Laws of Power. It's a very insidious and dark psychological to-do list on how to manipulate anyone. So protect yourself and learn these laws. It's a very Machiavellian way to try and manipulate people to serve you. Now, if you learn those laws and use them on someone else, then I'm sorry, but you're part of the problem and you're not really my audience. So now let's hold up a mirror and ask yourself, what do I lack? What scares me? What makes me feel like I have no control? And who have I given my power to in order to feel that control over that which I fear? Nobody has all the correct answers. Nobody is 100% good. Nobody can 100% solve all your problems. Nobody can fill the void in you. What has left an aching hole in your heart that you decided to give your power to another person in order for them to fill that void? Did you grow up in an emotionally unsafe home or just unsafe period? Have you not worked through those issues with a licensed professional? If so, then you are prime real estate for someone who wants your resources. And what are your resources? Money, time, energy, whatever you got, and no resource is too small unless someone with more comes along, in which case you will be easily discarded. And if that happens, I say, see it as an opportunity to fill the well inside by doing proper healing so that you never need someone outside of yourself to fill that void. That takes hard, painful work. Not many are willing to do it. It is so much easier to see the cheat sheet someone gives you or someone is trying to sell you and say, yes, take my money and give me that cheat sheet. I don't want to feel uncomfortable trying to work through my drama and baggage. I don't want to think that I'm prime real estate for someone to take advantage of me. I'm savvy enough to know when someone is taking advantage of me. That is step one to being controlled. There's an ache in me that I think many share. It's a strong and visceral longing for something greater than myself, for an invisible force to consume me and heal me, a devastating yearning to be one with something sacred. That is the void I'm talking about. And when you want it that bad, you cast a net large and wide. And if you're not careful, you catch something you weren't expecting that will then suck you dry. So what do? Don't cast the net without a care. Find out what's actually missing in your life. Go to therapy and figure that out first. Then you can make your net with healthy boundaries and more knowledge, more armor to defend yourself with, and always have just a dash of skepticism. That little secret dagger of skepticism up your sleeve just in case you need to cut yourself free. God, I hope all of this is making sense. I feel like I'm just spewing out stuff. It's such a hard topic because there's so many nuances to it. And too many people are so self-assured, too certain about things. And that attitude is what screws it up, not just for them, but for everyone else around them. So don't be that person. Be the brave skeptic. Look in the mirror. Get help. Inform yourself and ask those questions.